So, Sunday again, and this week I kind of stepped away from crafting with roots, and I'm carving a bit. This week I've been carving, as you can kind of see. It has been, I stepped away a bit from doing the root craft. It's starting to get in my wrist a bit because there's a lot of intricate in between there, so I just needed to rest my hands a bit from that type of work. So I kind of started to do, well, first of all, if you may or may not know, I also have a homestead here. Me and my wife built it from the ground up, from a raw land, and just built everything you see, including the house on the left of me. I panned there later in the end of the video to show you. However, since I also need to do normal homesteading work, which means taking care of the property, I had to limb this week some of the trees on the what I call, or we called, Cherry Hill or Chicken Hill, depending on. So I had to limb some trees. Most of them I threw away because I need to start piling up some brushes in a spot. But I also thought that maybe we just go through a bit of carving, or knives actually, because all knives are not equal. Far from it. Like this here, you may or may not know, but this is what a chisel knife, has a flat head, and this one I use for absolutely everything, lifting things up and splitting woods, just holding things in place or whatever. This is used for absolutely everything, kind of like my needle gun. This is just attached to my belt all the time, and I have it for even pulling up weeds here. However, these knives are far from good to carve with for some reasons, but mainly because, well, once again, this is my opinion. The angle of the edge is too steep, so it's leaning in too much to the middle, right? If you compare it to one of these, this is just a pocket knife, which is very common in this area. Trashers Mount, everybody more or less has a pocket knife, and here we have an abundance of selection of pocket knives. Anyhow, this is a normal pocket knife with what I would call like a leaf blade, which means it has its edge from the end of the edge to the back of the back, so it goes continuously. If you compare it to this, it folds in, so it has a much steeper angle, and that problem, you're kind of causing a problem for yourself when you're carving them, because then you have a too steep of an angle, and then you grind into the wood itself. Well, let's call it a blade knife, or blade, leaf blade. Thank you. Since it's so flat, or the angle of the edge are so low, it's kind of more, you get it a more of a skating motion going through. It's more flatter to the surface, so you have more ease to, and this is mostly helpful when you do when you debarking stuff. This just finds its way underneath the bark, and then it just peels off. While this one, or a similar knife like this with a more aggressive edge, would have a tendency to stuck in the wood, to grab wood and not just the bark that you want to take off in the first place. And I like to say that as well, because this is just normal sticks this is cherry wood from a cherry tree, and it's fairly slim. I would say from the here is like 2 centimeters maybe, and up here is not even 3. So it's very cherry wood is very hard, very hard. But also, to get wood as hard as possible, in my opinion again, you need to debark it, and that's actually for a couple of reasons. You want to debark it so it can dries out, but you also need to debark it, or you want to debark it so you don't get insects and stuff underneath the bark. Because as soon as insects go in there, it's gonna be a highway underneath there with insects underneath the bark. And also, I recommend you to debark everything as soon as you take it down that you're gonna try to do something with. Because as soon as you take it off, the tree kind of shrinks together, and the bark kind of not loosen up, but it's gonna be easier to take it off. So as soon as you take off the branch or twigs or whatever you're gonna use for it, just if you're gonna use it for working with, just take a practice of debarking it. It's gonna be much easier for later. Otherwise, the bark is kind of sucking into the trunk itself, and it's gonna be hard to remove. You just have to work twice as much to get it off for the same result. So take your time to debark it. And also now you can see these are 3 different woods. This cane here is chestnut. The middle one is cherrywood, and this one is chopa. Swedish is asp. Is it aspen in English? Probably. All of these are very hard woods. However, these, like the chopa, for instance, you kind of need to start with a bigger one and go in a bit to the core to get the harder wood. While cherry, for instance, it's as soon as this dry, it's bone hard more or less. And same thing with chestnut. And here, I mean, chestnut. This is a white, happen to be white or lighter of color, just because it's on the outside, or a smaller branch, which means the core. I tried to get as big as I could, but since it's a bit crooked, it's hard to get into the core, so you get that brown stuff. You kind of need to start harder. But this also, the white one will change color with age. All of these the wood will of course change color as they age up and whatever your tendency is with them. But from the beginning, these are almost same looking in whites, but it's not going to take long with some beeswax and linseed oil until they start taking their form of showing their grades. Because here, for instance, this here is chestnut, and the knob is cherrywood. By the way, it comes off, so you can put stuff in there. It's just prototypes. I just started to doing walking staffs and canes, just because I had take down branches from the homestead. So I thought maybe start showing a bit about carving. And I'm not far from an expert in carving, but I think it's a lot of things. Well, it's a bit of material sport, because you kind of just need to know. And carving is not really hard. Even like end wood, you will think, if you haven't tried to carve end wood with this type of knife, you think it's the most hard thing in the world to do. But if you have something like this, it's automatically 10 times easier. And also, like, these are carving knives. These are more similar to this one, but I don't know if the camera will pick it up. But this has a more shallow angle than this one, so it's more similar to this one. However, it has an edge, so it's not going continuously from the edge to the back, but it's more lenient than this one. So you also find the edge very, very fast. But also what these two do is, when you sharpen them, they become like a razor sharp. Razor sharp. If you cut yourself with one of these when they're fully up, you don't feel it. You just curse yourself for having blood all over the thing. So be careful. These are actually super sharp. And I would say, like, if you keep your carving knife, you only need to strap them. You don't really, if you have very hard wood, or if you go into a knot and you have, because these are, once again, these are the low end, but with good enough steel so you can reuse them, like strap them and sharpen them up. But since they are a bit cheaper, the steel is still good, but they're also a bit softer in the steel. So if you have very hard stuff like big knots, after a while you're gonna get small indentations on the edge. But if you keep your strapping going, your carving knives is gonna always be sharp. And as I said, carving end wood with proper knives, it's not a sport anymore. It's just, yeah, it's fairly easy actually. It's really easy. But if you ever try to carve end wood with one of these type of knives, you think it's the worst thing in the world. But as soon as you have proper tools, it's not a problem at all. So I would say if you wanna start wood carving, just a kit like this with three essential knives, I would say. A really small paring knife that goes in all the crevices, and then just a bit bigger one for the general carving. And then of course most of these kits always comes with a spooner knife of sorts. And as I said, these are the very low end of carving knives. It doesn't cost much at all, but still make sure it's half decent steel. Or if you're just carving in pine or soft woods, the issue is not really hard anymore to pick the knife. But as soon as you go into harder woods, it becomes a drag if you don't have good knives. So yeah, this is what I've been doing this week, and just trying to focus on finding different outlets. Because also I think it's worth to mention that I try to do everything I do in woodworking here is some sort of upcycled or repurposed or reused. And here in this region we have boatloads of chestnut and walnut that's just laying around, that's been hundreds of years old. So I'm for sure gonna take advantage of this. But this as well is just a show of normal branches that with a bit of TLC you can do a lot of things with just things that you have on your land. And as I said, like a cane with a hidden compartment is not really hard to do. You just need to find a vial that's big or small enough, drill a hole, stick it in there, put some glue, and then drill a hole in the head and put the cap there, right? So it's not super hard, but it's good practice and it's good fun to just do it. And as I said, all these, even though it looks very similar now, just when I'm done with it, they're gonna have such different appearance, just from they taking on the oil very differently and taking on the beeswax very differently due to the grains and how much they attract the oil, basically. So yeah, my recommendation would be, if you want to start do some woodworking or just try to do hands-on carving, if you just start with a small pocket knife, this is very small, you can do a lot of things with it. And then it's just elbow grease and TLC that's lacking, I guess. But yeah, you can do boatloads of stuff with just branches you have on your land or neighbor's land or whatnot. But you know, so yeah. Oh, and also I want to say, if you want to do work with like organic stuff, like branches, and you're always gonna have a bit of a problem to fasten them down, right? Because it's gonna be round and they're gonna be a bit organic. So sometimes it's hard to just fasten them down, and it's multiple ways to do this. If you have a proper woodworker bench, you're gonna have these holes when you can strap down things, but these things cost money as well, right? So I would recommend, if you start doing this, is to build yourself a cargo bench that's down there. I'm gonna put a picture in picture actually on the cargo bench I have in front. It's just an easy practice to strap them in. One second. You kind of just need to have, this is all you need to strap organic stuff in, a wood wedge if you have a cargo bench. And the practice is fairly easy. You just put it, as I said, I'm gonna pan down to it later. but the basic is just to, the cargo bench is slats, and then you stick this in between, and then you just put the wedge in there and wedge it in place. It's not that hard actually. But first you have to build the cargo bench. So once again, if you want to start doing carving, I would say build yourself a cargo bench to get stuff strapped in, and because that's also key of a lot of woodworking, is to get your material to be still. And sometimes it can be really hard when you're working with organic stuff, but if you have a material sitting still and fast, your work is so much easier. So yeah, I think that's it for this week. And yeah, I'm gonna pan the camera to the left so you can see the house as well as I built. So yeah, the coffee's it's about to run out. Okay. So I say, get yourself a pocket knife and try to do wood carving. Just take a branch from your tree in the garden and see what you can do. It's super easy and fun actually. So yeah, I think that's it for this week, right? Thank you for watching, and hope to see you next week. Bye bye. Ciao ciao.